Hello and welcome to this new story. A story of failure, of fear, of dreams that nearly vanished before they even had a chance to begin. This isn't a scene from a movie. This is real. This is the story of a man who started with nothing. No confidence, no fluency, not even basic English. He lied on his resume, not to deceive, but just to survive. He claimed he could speak English fluently, even though he could barely introduce himself. He was terrified, but that one lie, it changed his whole life. This story isn't just about learning English. It's about standing in front of people, with a trembling voice, sweaty hands, and still choosing not to run away. It's about the power of one decision, the sting of being laughed at, the tears no one saw, and the fire that lit up inside him when he whispered to himself, "I will not lose." So if you've ever been scared to speak, if you've ever felt small in a room full of confident voices, if you've ever thought, "I'm not good enough," then this story is for you. Watch until the end, because this could be your story too. My name is Ethan Tran, and this is where everything began. I'm 26 years old. I come from a quiet village just outside Dalat, Vietnam. You know, when people think about Vietnam, they imagine bustling streets, delicious food, warm smiles, and people full of confidence. But my life wasn't like that. I grew up in a quiet home, with small dreams and big responsibilities. My father was a taxi driver. My mother worked at a local bakery. They were kind, hardworking, and proud. But they didn't speak English. Not even a single word. In our house, everything was in Vietnamese. The food, the music, the prayers, the problems. As a kid, I didn't even think English mattered. I used to say, "I'll never leave Vietnam. Why should I care?" But deep inside, I had a dream. A dream I was too afraid to say out loud. I wanted to live in New York, the city of lights, the place where smart people live, where confident people speak beautiful English, and chase impossible dreams. That city was everywhere, on my wallpaper, in my notebooks, in my imagination, but not in my plans. Why? Because I didn't believe I belonged there. In school, English was my worst subject. I never understood grammar. I didn't know the difference between do and does. Speak and talk. I used to memorize answers before exams, but I never truly understood anything. I remember in ninth grade, a teacher asked me to read a short English paragraph in front of the class. My hands were shaking. My lips were dry. I read it like a robot. Everyone laughed. The teacher said, "This is why practice is important." But what I heard was, "You're not good enough." After that day, I never raised my hand in English class again. Years passed. I finished college with a degree in graphic design. I was good at it. Not the best, but good enough to dream of something beyond my little town. One night, while scrolling through job listings, I saw a position at a creative agency in Manhattan. I clicked on it. The description said, "Must be fluent in English. Must be confident in meetings. International applicants welcome." I stared at those words. I wasn't fluent. I wasn't confident. But I was desperate. That night, I did something I never imagined. I opened my resume, and under languages, I wrote, "English fluent." My hands were cold. My heart was racing. But I hit send. A week later, I got the email. "Dear Ethan, we loved your portfolio. Can we schedule an interview?" My stomach dropped. I didn't tell anyone. Not my parents. Not my friends. Not even myself. I replied, "Yes, I'm available tomorrow." That night, I searched how to speak English fluently in one day. It was ridiculous. I knew that, but I didn't know what else to do. I wrote fake answers, memorized them like a child, again and again. I wasn't ready, but I showed up. It was a Zoom interview. The first question, tell us about yourself. I smiled. My face was calm, but inside, I was falling apart. I said, my name is Ethan. I'm a graphic designer from Vietnam. I love design. I want to work in New York. My grammar was broken. I made mistakes, but I said it with courage. They nodded. They smiled. The next day, I got the offer letter. I was hired. I couldn't believe it. My hands were shaking. I showed my parents. They didn't understand everything, but they were proud. 2 weeks later, I was on a plane to New York. I had never left Vietnam before. I had never spoken full sentences in English before, but now I had to live in a new country, work in an international office, and speak English every single day. That one lie on my resume, it became my biggest truth, because now I had to survive it. The first day, the boy who lied walked into reality. The plane landed at JFK International Airport around 5:45 p.m. My hands were cold. My back was stiff. But my eyes, they were wide open. For the first time in my life, I was in New York City. The place I had only seen in movies was now beneath my feet. The air smelled different. Cold, but not in a bad way. It smelled like smoke, fast food, and something else. Something exciting, like a secret waiting to be discovered. I stepped out of the airport, and my heart began to race. The taxis were yellow. The roads were loud. People moved fast, talked fast, ate fast. And yes, they were speaking English, faster than my brain could catch. Everywhere I looked, there were people from all over the world. White, black, Asian, Arab, Latino, Indian. It didn't feel like one country. It felt like the whole world, standing on one street. And me? I was just a small-town boy from Dalat, wearing a blue jacket I borrowed from my cousin, carrying 2 bags, and one big lie. I'm fluent in English. I had booked a tiny Airbnb room in Queens. It was the cheapest I could find, $38 a night. The room was small, just a bed, a window, a tiny table, and a dusty old lamp. But to me, I felt rich. I felt like a movie star in a low-budget film, because this wasn't about luxury. It was about freedom. That evening, I didn't go to Times Square. I didn't visit the Statue of Liberty. I just walked around the blocks near my stay, watching people, listening to conversations, reading store signs and menus. Silently, in my head, I was hungry, but I was too scared to order food. I didn't know how to say it. What if they asked me something? What if I didn't understand? So instead of going to a restaurant, I walked into a small grocery store. I picked up a sandwich, a packet of chips, and a can of soda. The total was $8.90. I handed over a 10. The man at the counter said something fast. You want a bag? I froze. What did he say? I smiled nervously. Sorry. English not good. He rolled his eyes. Bag. You want bag. This time, I understood. I nodded. He tossed my things into a bag and said nothing else. I walked out, embarrassed. That night, I sat on the edge of the bed, ate my sandwich in silence, and thought to myself, what am I doing here? I had my first panic attack that night. Not like the movies. No screaming, no dramatic music, just quiet, and cold, and small. Tears came, and I tried to hide them. From who? I don't know. Maybe from myself. I whispered, you said you're fluent. Tomorrow's your first day at work. What if they find out? What if they fire you? What will you do? The next morning, I woke up at 6 a.m., took a shower, used my own towel. The Airbnb one looked too old. I wore a plain white shirt, black jeans, and my only pair of office shoes. I didn't have a winter coat, so I wrapped a scarf around my neck. Like armor. I took the subway for the first time. It was loud, crowded, confusing. I kept checking Google Maps. Every 2 minutes. I missed my first train. Then I stood on the wrong side of the platform. Then I got off at the wrong stop. But finally, I made it. My office building in Manhattan stood tall, with giant glass windows, a golden logo on the door, and people walking in, wearing clean suits and powerful shoes. My heart was pounding like a drum in my chest. I walked up to the front desk. The lady smiled and said something fast. Something like, "Hi, welcome. Name and appointment, please." I smiled nervously. "My name, Ethan. First day today." She typed something on her computer. "Ah, Ethan Tran? Yes. You're with the creative team, 12th floor." I nodded. I didn't say anything else. Not even a thank you. I was too afraid I'd mess it up. The elevator ride felt like forever. Not because it was slow, but because my head was spinning. Will they know? Will they laugh? Will they even understand my accent? The doors opened. A woman in a black blazer greeted me. "Hi, Ethan, welcome. I'm Sarah, your team lead. Come, I'll show you around." She was warm, friendly, confident. She spoke quickly, but always with a smile. As she showed me around the office, I tried to keep up. I only caught a few words. "This is the pantry, free coffee here. That's the conference room. Our creative team sits here." I kept nodding like I understood, but inside I was drowning. Then we got to my desk. It was clean and modern. There was a small welcome card. "Ethan Tran, welcome to NYC." My eyes started to water, not because I was sad, but because I had made it. Somehow, with broken English, with fear in my chest. I was here. I sat down, opened my laptop, and pretended to look busy. Then came the real test. At 10:30 a.m., we had our team meeting. 6 people, all native speakers. Fast, fluent, funny. They were joking, sharing ideas, throwing out phrases like, "Let's circle back. Maybe we can pivot. What's the vibe we're going for?" I didn't understand any of it. My hands were cold. My lips were dry. I said nothing. Then Sarah turned to me. "Ethan, what do you think?" Time stopped. I looked up, opened my mouth. Nothing came out. Then I forced myself to speak. I think design is nice, but maybe a little more bright." Silence. Then one guy said, "Yeah, I see what you mean. Add more color, right?" I nodded fast. Yes, more color." The meeting moved on. I was still nervous, but I had spoken, and that was a start. Kept repeating those simple phrases. Again and again. "Hey, long time no see. How have you been?" "I've been great. Just busy with work." My pronunciation was off. My rhythm was strange. But I didn't stop. I couldn't stop. Because this wasn't just about English anymore. This was about proving to myself that I belonged, that I could stand tall in a city that didn't wait for anyone. Every morning, I followed the same routine. 5 a.m. wake up. 5:15 a.m. make coffee. 5:30 a.m. practice English. 6:30 a.m. review vocabulary. 7 a.m. head to work. During the day, I would listen to conversations around me. In the subway, at lunch, in meetings. I didn't understand everything, but I tried to catch key words, phrases, tones. I wrote them down in a little notebook I kept in my jacket pocket. That notebook became my best friend. By the end of the first week, I had learned 35 new phrases. By the end of the first month, I could follow full conversations. By the end of the third month, I spoke in meetings. Not perfectly, but clearly. One day, Sarah pulled me aside after a presentation. "Ethan," she said, Your English has improved so much. I can see the work you've been putting in. You're doing amazing." I smiled, not just with my lips, but with my whole heart. That one sentence felt better than any award, because I knew what it cost. Hours of silence, nights of doubt, early mornings, and a promise I made to myself. You lied once. Now earn the truth. And I was. Then came the second sentence. I've been great, just busy with work. I broke it down into smaller parts. I have been great. I've been great, busy with work. I repeated it 10 times. With each repetition, I felt a little more confident. I had never done this before. Back in Vietnam, we just memorized grammar rules. No one ever taught us how to actually speak. But here I was, a grown man in a foreign country, learning to speak like a child. And you know what? It felt powerful. That 1 hour practice became my morning ritual. Every single day, from 5 a.m. to 6 a.m., before work, no matter how cold it was, no matter how tired I felt, I called it my power hour. After a week, I added mirror practice. I'd stand in front of the bathroom mirror and talk to myself in English. Sometimes I'd introduce myself. "Hi, I'm Ethan. I work as a designer in New York. I love creativity and good coffee." Other times, I'd pretend to order food. "Hi, can I get 1 cheeseburger, 1 fries, and a Coke, please?" At first, I laughed at myself. I felt ridiculous. But I kept going because I remembered something I once heard. Embarrassment is the price of growth. And I was ready to pay that price. Every day after work, even when I was exhausted, I didn't quit. I followed a schedule. 6 to 7 p.m., watch English TV shows with subtitles. 7 to 7:30 p.m., write 5 new sentences in my notebook. 7:30 to 8 p.m., record myself speaking and listen to my voice. Yes, I recorded myself. My voice sounded weird. My accent was heavy. My grammar was messy. But I did it. Every single day. One night, I was practicing in the mirror when my Airbnb host passed by the bathroom. He heard me talking and said, "You okay in there?" I smiled and said, "Yeah, just practicing English." He laughed and said, "Ah, good. You'll be American in no time." He didn't know it, but that was the first real compliment I'd ever gotten on my English. I smiled the whole night. But not every day was like that. Some days were tough. There were mistakes, lots of them. One time, I sent an email that said, "Dear sir, please find the attached file." A teammate gently replied, "Hey Ethan, just a quick tip. You can just say please find the attached file. You don't need the twice." I wanted to disappear. Another time, I was giving a presentation. I meant to say, "This feature will make the process faster." But I said, "This feature will make the process more fastly." Silence. My manager raised an eyebrow. A teammate leaned in and whispered, "Do you mean faster?" I froze. My mouth went dry. My hands trembled a little. I nodded, "Yes, faster." I kept going, but my confidence was gone. I could feel my face burning. After the meeting, I went to the restroom and stared at myself in the mirror. I whispered, "Why can't I just speak right?" On the train ride home, I sat by the window, trying not to cry in public. But when I got back to my tiny apartment, I did cry. Then I wiped my face, opened my grammar book, and wrote in big, bold letters. Today I learned, we say faster, not more fastly. Adverbs are tricky, but I'll learn them. I smiled through my tears, because that night I understood something important. Every mistake is a teacher. I wasn't failing. I was learning. 2 weeks later, I started going to coffee shops every weekend. I made myself one promise. Talk to one stranger every Saturday. Just one. The first weekend, I saw an old man sitting alone by the window. I took a deep breath, walked over, and said, "Hi, my name is Ethan. I'm learning English. Can I sit?" He looked surprised, then smiled. "Sure, son. Sit down." We talked for 20 minutes. He told me about his wife who had passed away. I told him I was from Vietnam. He looked at me and said, "Your English is good." I replied, "Not yet, but I try." He gave me a thumbs up. "Keep trying. You'll get there." That day, I felt like a hero. Not because my English was perfect, but because I had the courage to speak at all. By the end of my first month in New York, I had filled 2 notebooks with new words and sentences, practiced for over 45 hours, spent $200 on coffee and snacks talking to strangers, made 4 new friends, and started understanding about 60% of the conversations at work. My confidence was growing. My fear was shrinking. But the biggest moment came in my second month. Our team had to present a new design concept to a client. During our prep meeting, Sarah looked at me and said, "Ethan, we want you to lead the design part." I froze. "Me?" I asked. She nodded. "Yes, you've worked hard. It's time." I didn't sleep that night. I practiced my lines over and over, 50 times at least. "Good afternoon. My name is Ethan Tran. Today, I will walk you through our design vision." We wanted something modern, clean, and emotional. The next day, I stood in front of the client. My hands were shaking. My voice was low, but I didn't run. I didn't quit. I kept going. Yes, I made a few mistakes. Yes, I forgot one sentence. But I didn't stop. I finished. And when I looked up, they were clapping. My manager smiled. The client said, "Great presentation. Loved the color story." I walked out of that meeting with my chest lifted, my shoulders high, and tears quietly forming in my eyes. Because in that moment, I wasn't Ethan the imposter anymore. I was Ethan Tran, the English speaker, the fighter, the man who didn't give up. That night, I called my mother in Vietnam. I told her everything. I cried. She cried. She said, "Con you, mi luon tu how vi con." My child, I'm always proud of you. I looked out the window that night. New York City was glowing, like stars scattered on the ground. And I whispered to myself, this is just the beginning. I had only 31 days left. 31 days to survive. 31 days to prove I wasn't a liar. 31 days to become the man I had only pretended to be. That morning, I stood in front of the mirror in my tiny apartment. I was wearing my navy blue shirt, trying to fix my tie with trembling hands. The mirror didn't lie, not like my resume did. It reflected the truth. Eyes full of fear, mouth dry, heart pounding like I'd just finished a marathon. But I kept my focus on the sticky note taped to the mirror. It read, "One sentence better than yesterday." That was my promise to myself. Not perfection, just progress. One new phrase. One small step forward. But that day, something happened I didn't expect. At work, my manager, David, looked at me and said, "Ethan, join the client Zoom call." A real client. A real meeting. Real English. My legs went weak. My stomach twisted like I'd swallowed ice cubes. I said yes, but my voice cracked. I joined the call with a fake smile and real fear. The client spoke fast, way too fast. I understood maybe 20% of what he said, so I did what I could. I smiled. I nodded at the right moments, laughed when others laughed, and I kept writing down every new word I heard, like a soldier collecting weapons. After the meeting, David didn't say a word. He just looked at me and walked away. That silence, it hit harder than any insult. I knew I had failed. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed, headphones in, listening to a podcast. Simple English for beginners. The host said one line that struck me like lightning. Fluency is not magic. It's memory, muscle, and mindset. I sat up straight. I whispered it to myself. Memory, muscle, mindset. I grabbed my notebook and wrote it down in capital letters. Then I created a new plan. Not just a routine, a survival plan. Here's what it looked like. Morning, 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. 10-minute meditation to calm my fear. Speak 10 sentences to myself in the mirror. Listen to one short English story. Repeat it line by line. Write 5 new words in my notebook, each with an example. Lunch break, 1 p.m. to 1:30 p.m. Watch a 10-minute business conversation on YouTube. Speak one English sentence to a coworker. Evening, 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Read one page from The Alchemist in English. Underline new words. Practice writing. Emails, journal entries, random topics. Every night, before sleeping, I added one final habit. Record 5 minutes of myself talking about my day in English. Then, I'd review my vocabulary flashcards. And to end the day gently, I'd watch 10 minutes of an English movie with subtitles. This routine changed everything. Day by day, the transformation was slow but real. On day 34, I walked into a Subway and ordered my sandwich. With full confidence, without switching to Vietnamese. It felt like flying. On day 36, I made a small joke during lunch at work, and my coworkers actually laughed. Not out of pity, because they got it. On day 38, a woman from my apartment building asked, "Where are you from?" I smiled and replied, "Vietnam. I just moved here a month ago." She nodded and said, "Oh, your English is nice." It wasn't perfect, but it was nice. That one word, it felt like a medal. That same week, I started doing something new. I wrote down every single expense in English. I wanted to train my thinking in English, not just my speaking. Here's how one page looked. Rent, $1,200. Groceries, $148.35. Transport, bus plus subway, $52. Coffee, $18.75. Language books, $22. Mobile recharge, $35. Laundry, $9. Even the smallest things became part of my learning. When I did laundry, I whispered. Washing, drying, folding clothes. When I bought groceries, I made English lists. Eggs, cheese, cereal, toothpaste, apples, chicken. At this point, I wasn't just living with English. I was breathing it. But then came the real test. One of my teammates called in sick. David turned to me and said, "Ethan, can you handle the 10-minute internal presentation?" I froze. I wanted to say no, but something deep inside me whispered, "You're ready." That night, I treated my preparation like I was going to speak in front of the United Nations. I wrote my lines, practiced for 3 hours, stood in front of the mirror like it was my audience. I said, "Good morning, everyone. Today I'll share the progress of the Blue Tech project. First, let's look at the timeline." Over and over, I practiced every gesture, even my smile. The next morning, I wore my best shirt, polished my shoes, reached the office early. When my time came, I stood up. My hands were shaking, but I took a deep breath, and I spoke. I didn't read. I spoke. I forgot a few lines, sure, but I replaced them with simple English. I smiled, even when I made a mistake. I added a little joke, and it actually worked. When I finished that internal presentation, I looked over at David. He nodded, and for the first time, I felt like I belonged. That evening, I sat alone in a quiet cafe. I opened my notebook, the same one where I had scribbled my fears and plans. And I wrote, "Today, I became the man I lied about 41 days ago." Then I paused and wrote a question. What else can I do in 19 more days? That question lit something inside me. Because that night I knew my journey had entered a new level. Part 4. The language that gave me a new life. 19 days. That's all I had left in my 60-day plan. But something was different now. I was no longer afraid. Every day I spoke more, listened more, understood more. I didn't see English as a subject anymore. It had become part of my blood. I started enjoying it. I read everything. Street signs, shampoo bottles, toothpaste instructions, bank forms. Even mistakes. They didn't sting anymore. I smiled at them. I remember one afternoon, sitting in a cafe with my laptop. I ordered a coffee, opened my notes. An older American man sat beside me. He looked over and asked, "You're not from around here, are you?" I smiled. "No, I'm from Vietnam." He nodded and said, "But your English sounds really good. Where did you learn?" I took a breath, and I said, "From fear and from fire." We both laughed. We ended up talking for almost 30 minutes. He told me he was a retired professor. I told him about my fake resume, about my 60-day plan. At the end, he looked at me and said something I'll never forget. "You didn't fake your way into this life. You fought your way in. You earned it." Day 60, the final day. David called me into his office. His face was serious. He opened his laptop, turned the screen toward me, and showed me a graph. It was the sales report of the project I had been handling. And right there, a 17% increase in performance. My ideas, my emails, my support to clients, they worked. Then David looked at me and said, "When you joined, I had doubts. You weren't confident. Your English was shaky. But now you've changed. You're stronger. You're clearer. You're an asset." Then he smiled. "We're increasing your salary from $3,500 to $5,200 per month." I couldn't breathe. I looked at him, eyes wide, heart racing. I don't know what to say," I whispered. He stood, shook my hand, and said, "Just keep going. You've earned it." I stepped out of that room, and I swear, I felt like I was flying. That evening, I walked home to my small apartment, the same one where I once sat on the floor, crying, afraid I would lose everything. But this time, I wasn't crying. I was laughing. I opened the balcony window. The cool wind brushed against my face. The lights of the city blinked like stars just for me. I picked up my notebook, the one with the survival plan, and I wrote, in bold capital letters, "English didn't just change my career. It changed my life." And it had. Let me tell you what changed. I started helping my coworkers write emails. They respected me. They asked for my opinion. They listened. My parents, who once worried about me, now smiled proudly during our video calls. One night, my mother said, "Ethan, your English sounds so professional." "Hey, son," my dad said one evening on a call. "I heard you started dating a girl named Emily." I smiled. "Yeah, we met in a bookstore. She said she loved my accent." I told her. I worked hard for it. We went on long walks. She spoke fast English. I listened with love. When I told her about my 60-day journey, she looked at me and said, "That's the most romantic story I've ever heard. Between a man and a language." We laughed. But you know what? More than the money, more than the promotion, more than the love, it was the confidence. That changed my life. I started applying for conferences, speaking on calls, writing articles on LinkedIn. People followed me. They messaged me. "How did you learn English so fast?" And I always replied, I didn't learn it fast. I learned it deeply, with emotion, with failure, with tears, with daily practice, with heart. And then I realized something. English is not just a language. It's a bridge. It connects poor to rich, small towns to big cities, dreams to reality, because the world listens in English. And when you can't speak it, the world goes silent. You feel invisible. You feel stuck. But the moment you say something, even broken, even scared, the world turns and listens. Because now, you're part of the conversation. Now you belong. People often ask me, why should I learn English? What's the use? I always ask back, do you want a better job? Learn English. Do you want to study abroad? Learn English. Do you want to speak with people from other countries? Learn English. Do you want to grow your business? Learn English. Do you want confidence in interviews, meetings, on dates, during travel? Learn English. Do you want freedom in life? Then, learn English. Because English isn't just a language. It's a tool. It's a weapon. It's a superpower. It sharpens your brain. It expands your world. It strengthens your voice. Now it's been 2 years. I've moved into a bigger apartment. My salary? $8,000 per month. I lead a team of 12 people. And I help other immigrants, just like me. I teach them what I learned. From my darkest days. Start with one sentence. One word. One smile. One mistake. Every single day. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be better than yesterday. That's the name of my notebook now. Better Than Yesterday, my 60-day English journey. A daily plan for anyone who wants to speak confidently. I know how it feels. Sitting in a group, people speaking English, and suddenly, you go quiet. You smile to hide the silence. But inside, your heart is burning. You feel like you're behind in life. Like you don't belong. I've been there. But I want to tell you something today. English is not just a language. It is the power to open doors you never thought possible. And if you keep walking through them, you'll find not only a new language, you'll find a new life. So if you truly want to speak English, not to impress, but to free yourself, this plan is for you. It's not about grammar books. It's not about big words. It's about small, daily steps that can change your life forever. When you wake up in the morning, before touching your phone, take a deep breath. Put your hand over your heart and whisper, I am learning English because I deserve a better life. That's your first victory. Then walk to the mirror, look into your own eyes, and say 5 simple lines in English about your day. I'm going to the kitchen. I will drink some tea. I have to do laundry. Today I feel a little tired, but I'm proud of myself. These small sentences, they are the roots of fluency. Don't think they're silly. This is how children learn. And today, you are allowing yourself to be a student again. After that, take your notebook. Write down 5 new English words. But not just the meaning. Write a sentence with each one. Make it personal. If your word is hope, don't just write, hope means high vong. Write, I hope I will speak English fluently soon. I hope my future is brighter than my past. I hope I never stop learning. Feel your words. Let them stay with you all day. You are not just memorizing vocabulary. You are building your new voice. Afternoon is your time to connect. After lunch or after a little rest. Play a short video in English. It could be a vlog, a story, a real conversation, even a scene from your favorite movie. But it must feel real. First, watch with subtitles. Then, watch again without them. Don't worry about catching every word. Focus on the rhythm, the pauses, the emotions, the music of the language. Then close your eyes and say, in your own words, they were at the beach. She was talking about her childhood. It made me feel happy. Even if the grammar is broken, speak anyway, because every broken sentence is a step toward a full conversation. This is your training ground. Take 10 minutes to talk to yourself about anything. Your mother, your favorite food, your fear, your dream. You're not waiting for someone to practice with. You're becoming your own teacher, your own friend, and that is powerful. Night. That's the most emotional part of the day. And that's when learning becomes beautiful. Sit with a cup of tea, or just in your quiet corner. Open your notebook and write 5 to 10 lines in English about your day. Today I was tired. I wanted to give up, but I remembered my dream. I watched a video. I repeated one sentence 5 times. I felt proud. These lines, they're not just practice. They are proof that you are growing. After writing, read them out loud, slowly, clearly. Then go back to the 5 words you wrote in the morning. Try to use them in your diary. And lastly, before sleeping, whisper 3 things to yourself in English. I am improving. I am proud of myself. Tomorrow I will try again. These quiet, personal sentences will stay in your soul. They will carry you through your doubts and your dreams. You are not just learning English. You are healing. You are not lazy. You are not late. You are just starting now. English won't just help you speak better. It will help you dream bigger. It will open doors to new jobs, new friendships, new versions of yourself. People will respect your effort. But most importantly, you will start respecting yourself. And one day, you'll look back and say, I did it, just like I did, just like many others have, and just like you will. If you're reading this and you're scared of English, don't give up. I was once you, lost, ashamed, afraid to speak, but I kept going, and so will you. Let's grow together. Let's build your English. Let's build your future. Because you are not just learning a language. You are building your life. And I am so proud of you. See you in the next lesson.